What's going on, beautiful world? It's your girl, Sheree Robin. And as always, we're talking all things books, business, and building a life you love. And today's conversation is all about ghostwriting. Right? Like what is ghostwriting? And so I have been a ghostwriter probably for about the last 7 years. Right. And in those 7 years, myself and my team together have written over 10 books for industry influencers, for celebrities, for athletes, for pastors, right? We have done hosts, business owners, right? Entrepreneurs. We have written books for a lot of really incredible people. And a lot of times when I meet writers who are aspiring authors who want to write a book, they are considering the option of ghostwriting, right? But there's so little that they know and understand about what ghostwriting really entails. And so I want to take this opportunity with my experience and all the things that my team and I have successfully done and give you a little inside scoop and understanding to ghostwriting, what it looks like, how that process works, what it is that my team and I do to make sure that we are really creating the best possible book for our clients, and for you to consider if this is a route that you want to take yourself. All right. So let's get into it. Let's talk about ghostwriting. And so I want to talk about ghostwriting, but reverse engineer it, right? Because a lot of times people think that ghostwriting means that you, right, the person with the story, right, you disappear, right? So there's a misconception. There's this concept that when you hire a ghostwriter, then you are completely removed from the process, and that ghostwriter just writes, right? They interview you, they get the information, and then they just go create the book, and you've gone ghost, right? You have removed yourself from the equation, and the ghostwriter is now fully responsible for the production of the book. That is incorrect. I'm here to tell you today that you are completely wrong about that particular concept. And if you're thinking about ghostwriting that way, what ghostwriting really means is that we are working together in a collaborative relationship. And then once the book is done, I go ghost. Right. I disappear. Nobody knows. It's super, top secret. Now, it depends on the contract if you're, able to tell. And I can share that stuff, for most of my clients, not all, but most of my clients in those relationships. But what it means is that the writer, right, the person who wrote the book at the end, they are removed. So understand that ghostwriting, right, it does not remove you from the process, right? It doesn't mean it means you don't have to write, but it does mean, right, and this is the biggest part of the success for all of our ghostwriting projects. It does mean that you are absolutely 100% solely responsible for the development, right? Because I can't just listen to you talk and create a book from that. We have to meet together and get a very clear understanding of what this book is, right? What do you want this to be? Is it your story? Is it a piece of your experience? Is it a memoir? Are we doing strategies, tips, lessons, right? What are the things that we're actually doing in this manuscript? Because like I said, you do not, right? You do not ever, as a ghostwriter, ever want to just let your client talk and then you have to go in there and make sense of all of the random things that were said. You ever be in a conversation where somebody just start right squirrel, right? And then you got to go try to figure it out. That is so counterproductive. And so that's the first part is one, understanding, what ghostwriting is, but then two, coming into this relationship and doing that deep work together. Right. So that's where we start. I meet with my clients. We determine what this is. So this is our discovery and our development session. Once we understand that, then we go into another session, right? Because from that space, I'm going to ask a lot. Now I've had my own framework, right? My own system for how I get the questions that I ask, but I'm going to ask questions around, like I said, the vision. What are the key pieces that you want to teach? And then I'll create like a semi-done outline. Right. Here's what, based on what you've shared with me, here's why I think this needs to go. And you agree, we discuss it. This is a dance, like we tango in here. I'm not doing this solo, right? You are intimately involved in this process with me because everything has to go through your approval, right? As my client, the goal is to make sure that you're satisfied with the work. And so the outline, the mock-up outline, I present it to you. We talk about it. If this is the direction that you want to go in, then this is the direction that we move in. If there are things that you want to add, things you want to remove, whatever, we determine the outline, right? This is the trajectory of what we're going to do over the next 3 to 6 months, right? And that depends on how much time, you can commit to that too, right? So now I'm going to go into a series of interviews, right? Based on what I know about your vision, based on what we've laid out in an outline, understanding your goals, and what your intentions are, I'm going to start interviewing you based on those chapters. And then for my interview style, I also have a framework, right? There are a series of interviews, excuse me, a series of questions that I'm going to ask that help me build the foundational pieces of your manuscript. So we go through that interview process. I'm going through that for every single chapter, right? So then I'm going to take that as the writer, I take that, I clean that up, right? I start working through that. But the first thing I'm going to do is I'm not just going to do the whole thing, right? I'm going to start with chapter one. Here's what I've taken from chapter one. Here's what I have, right? Before I go do all of the work for the rest of the chapters. Here's what I have. Here's where I think that you're where you are. These are my thoughts and suggestions. And you're going to read that and give me your feedback. Let's do do this more with my voice. And every time, I'm getting the voice, your cadence, how you use words, all of that is coming from our conversations, and it's coming from the transcriptions. So it is vitally important, vitally essential, for an editor, and a ghostwriter. And I'm both in this space, but it is so important for you to be a critical listener, right? I have to listen so acutely to what it is that you're saying that I can also hear what you're not saying. So a lot of times in the writing, I'll leave these big spaces, and it'll say like, what's missing here? Or I might fill it in with something, whatever. I'm just going to put something in here, clutter for now, and then I'll highlight it and I'll say, okay, WW, SD, what would Stephanie do? Right? Or WWSS, what would Stephanie say? Because there's something missing here. So I need to give that back to you. The first chapter is the one where we're discussing whether or not this is a good flow, right? If the writing style is one that you like, if this is cohesive for how you want this book to come out. So we agree on that, right? And then once that's good, now I can go through the writing, right? Now I'm going to clean everything up and I'm going to put together basically a really juicy skeleton. Because here's what you have to understand about storytelling and about writing. The first time that someone tells me this story, there's always something missing. Always. Beyond a shadow of a doubt, 99% of the time, there is something missing. And so, usually, when I present that first draft back to you, we're going to go through a nice chunk of revisions. Because in that first draft is where the light bulb clicks, and most of the authors are like, oh man, Sheree, actually, before I moved over there, I lived over here instead. Or what happens is in my writing, there's a gap, right? And I can see that I haven't asked that question or there's something missing. I'm highlighting that, right? So in your read through, you can see there's a chunk missing here. Let me give her that information. And so then you're going to give me back that information. I'm going to go and put it in every single space, every chapter, do as much, nip and tuck and cleaning that up as I possibly can. And then I'm going to present you with what in most cases is our almost our final draft. Like we usually go through one more rounds of that. So you'll read through it. And if there are any changes at that point that you want to make, we'll make those changes. And then we can move forward from there. If you love it from that place, then we're good to go, right? Then we're good to go and everything is copacetic in that capacity. But that essentially is the process, right? So it is a very involved process for the person whose story it is, right? I'm sorry to tell you, I don't know who lied to you and told you that you just talk to them and then they just go figure it out, right? It is very it's an intense relationship. I think about Rick Ross when he talks about the book that he released maybe about 3 or 4 years ago, and he was in an interview saying that his ghostwriter was they asked him more questions than the feds. Right. This person wanted to know everything, right? All the details, all the specifics. They wanted to know what it looked like, what it tasted like. How did you feel when the wind hit you? What did you eat that day? What were you wearing? Right. All of those specifics and those details are a part of the process. So just be mindful of that. Your ghostwriter is going to ask you all the things. And if it doesn't show up in that first draft, it's going to show up in that second draft. Like we have to get it out of you. And you're only able to see it, what you didn't say when you read what you actually did say. So keep in mind, that's a part of the process too. So you'll be reading, you'll be giving feedback, you'll be assisting in you won't be making the revisions, but you'll be assisting in the revision process. And then the final say is yours, right? As a client, when we're done with all of the changes, then we give that baby to you and you decide, which we've had the conversation prior to, which route you want to go. If you want to self-publish, if you want to go, shop around for a traditional publisher, if the next step is connecting you with an agent, whatever that is for you. But at the end of our relationship, you have a completely finished, fully edited, ready to publish manuscript, right? And that's the goal. So keep that in mind, like understand that that's how ghostwriting works. It is very hands-on. You are not removed from the process. And you also have to be able to allow someone in, right? To allow me to get into those spaces, to ask those tough questions, which is I count myself really, really blessed, because every ghostwriting relationship that myself and my team that we've had have all been incredibly beneficial, right? All of our writers have been very forthcoming with the information. They're not difficult to work with. They recognize, oh man, I forgot to tell that. It's not a hardship. We don't have to pull teeth to get the information out of the author. So if you are going to work with a ghostwriter, just keep those things in mind. It's not just dump and go. That we have to just take whatever you throw on the page and try to make it make sense. It's not that at all. You're very hands-on in the process. You have the final say and the final approval. And then sometimes the speed in which we get done is really sometimes dependent on the client, right? If we have a hard time having our follow-up sessions, or if we can't make those time commitments, it can delay things. So you being present, you being ready to dive into those, developmental sessions, which could be 2, sometimes 3 hours. If we're trying to cover 10 years of your life, your whole whatever experience, we need the time to do that. So keep those things in mind and really consider if ghostwriting is for you. And I've got another video I'll be dropping that shares, what those deciding factors are if you are going to consider a ghostwrite. But now that right, just think about, is that the route that you want to go? And now that you are more informed about ghostwriting, the better. Right now you can speak on it and you can decide if that's the way that you want to move forward in this process. Okay, so I hope that bless you real good and that makes sense to you. If it does, drop a comment below. Let me know if you've ever thought about ghostwriting. If you are a ghostwriter, is this process like yours? Do you follow this same system, the same template to get the books done that you are going to get? And this is all for nonfiction, right? None of this applies to fiction. We're not talking fiction novels at all. So this conversation is specifically for nonfiction authors. So again, any ghostwriters out there, let me know. But if this was good for you, drop that comment. Let me know as well. Make sure that you like, subscribe, and follow, and stay tuned for more valuable nuggets and more tips and things that can bless you in your author journey. All right, guys. Appreciate you. Stay blessed, and I'll see you guys again soon.